Welcome to Strategy and Tragedy. I'm your host, Stephanie Melodia. If this is your first time tuning in, then a very big warm welcome. And if you are tuning back, then it's great to see you. If you haven't already, you know what to do. Please hit that follow, subscribe button wherever you're listening to this. Now, the purpose of this show, as the name indicates, Strategy and Tragedy, is to bring you the raw, real, authentic stories from entrepreneurs who have been there, done that. And of course, my next guest is no exception. Jonny Burch is a serial entrepreneur, early Deliveroo employee, exited founder, and now runs NearFuture, an AI transformation consultancy for product and design teams. As a designer for nearly 20 years, Jonny is the founder of Progression, a career platform for which he raised over $6 million and exited in 2024 before exploring the AI transformation space by day and tinkering in his product studio by night. Jonny, welcome to the show. So, Jonny, I purposely modified your intro. I've noticed that you always go by designer first. So like your LinkedIn headline, what you sent over to me for how to introduce you is very much like, I am a designer. And even here, like 5 minutes in the studio, you've already started talking about design. Why is that? Especially given like entrepreneurship is like so glamorized, and I feel like anyone would like cling to have that like entrepreneur exited founder label. Why is the design thing still very strong for you?
That's such a good question. You got straight to the heart of me. Yeah, I mean, I've been designing since I was 4, probably. I didn't really know what it was. Designing and trying to make things work. It's now been 46 years since that moment. 36 years. I'm not that old.
Hang on, your skincare routine is
I've got a mirror in my
fantastic.
loft. It's been 36 years since that moment, but I now realise, looking back, that's what I've been trying to do for my whole life, is trying to make things work.
Yeah.
And so that might be a business. It might be a piece of design, or it might be something coded or something else in the world. But I think being a designer, is just so deeply embedded in me, and maybe in all designers. It is very much a vocation. Sometimes it's too much of your personality as a designer. But yeah, I have been a founder. I am a founder. I will be a founder again. I'm proud of being a founder. And it is a lot of what drives me. I've realised that my personality type requires me to make a dent in the universe, for better or for worse. But the way by which I will always try to do that is with the design skill set that I've cultivated over all that time.
Yeah, I can tell, like, knowing what I know of you, it does feel like it really is like in your DNA. It is part of who you are. And again, I just thought it was interesting how you always kind of lead with that first and foremost. How close do you think the definitions are between designer and entrepreneur?
Well, I think both sound a bit pretentious as titles, maybe. As an entrepreneur, you're a problem solver as well. Design, as differentiates from an artist, maybe, you are primarily a problem solver. It may be visual, it may be something else, but you're trying to design your way out of a problem or into a solution. And as an entrepreneur, boy, it is just one long journey of, it's like a big puzzle that you have to solve. In fact, a friend of mine, a fellow founder, who is running a company that is currently going to the moon, so he knows what he's talking about. He described the act of founding a company, a venture-backed company, is being given a load of money to solve a puzzle. And how fun is that? And actually, when you're inside it, feels a lot more than that. The puzzle is existential and all-encompassing, and becomes your personality, and the challenging in many ways. But ultimately, it's like a Rubik's Cube. Please may I have $1 million to solve this Rubik's Cube, and if I do, we all get rich. But it's got 16 faces and 42 colours. It's a very, very difficult puzzle to solve. If you like that, and I have always liked that, it's my personality to enjoy that. There is unfortunately nothing else you can do once you've done it. So I'm a founder, and an entrepreneur.
If you're tuning into this right now, then first of all, a big heartfelt thank you. I really appreciate it. And secondly, there's a very high chance that you're on your own entrepreneurial journey right now. So whether you're a first-time founder and you're figuring things out and you feel like you're on your own, or if you've done it before and realized that actually this whole entrepreneurship business is a lot easier said than done, then I might be able to help you. If you feel like you vibe with my energy and feel like you need some of that professional big sister direction, support and advice, then I'm opening up a few select spots for that one-to-one coaching, mentorship and growth strategy for ambitious founders. There's a link in the show notes, so check it out and I would love to hear from you. All right, let's get back to the episode. Going back to the puzzle analogy, which I love, and you're like, maybe on the inside it doesn't quite feel like that. I feel like when you are on the inside, especially a venture-backed company, it's more like a masochistic escape room with that 16-sided Rubik's Cube and the timers on and the temperatures going
and everyone's watching.
And everyone's watching. Yeah, exactly. I love that. A quick one just on this, and we'll get on to like your Deliveroo chapter, your business with progression and what you're doing now, all these exciting topics I'm really keen to dive into. But just before we do, you mentioning about, obviously besides them being both wanky titles, entrepreneur, designer, of course at the heart they both share the problem solving. One of the most common traps, especially for first-time founders, is build and they will come. So given it's such a natural strength, it's such a wonderful skill set that you have in design, do you think that ability puts you more at risk of falling into that same first-time founder trap?
In some ways, yes, because the dopamine here, especially now with all of the tools you have. I mean, on the train this morning, I built something in an app that I'm working on in 2 hours that probably would have taken me actually so long I wouldn't have bothered to do it in 3 years ago.
Wow.
And I can write code, but I would have been like, I need an adult to do that for me. I'm not going to try and do that myself. And instead, me and Claude just sort of worked it out. These stories are everywhere. That's not an unusual story.
Yeah.
But what it does is every problem starts to look like Claude's problem to solve, and it starts to look like a build another feature type problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
I do think designers, or at least good designers, have a good sense of the user, and they do stay problem focused, and they can smell bullshit basically. So if given something, or if they've created something and it doesn't feel good, I think a good designer will always get nervous if they haven't validated what they've built.
Yeah.
So that I think, engineers are sort of obviously the canonical example of the building your bedroom for 5 years and then get surprised when no one wants what you've built.
Right.
I've done that, but I hope that what I'm doing by building a lot is building to tear down and building to tear down. So it's a validation process rather than like piling more stuff on top.
Exactly. Every time. What about the perfectionist trap? Like I know so many wonderful designers who are just like, they will not release it from their claws until it is perfect. And of course, perfect is never achievable.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's lots of different types of designers actually. And some are more into the craft and it's incredible. And you see incredible work from them. And actually in this new world, that craft and creating truly sort of novel visual things is going to be very important. I'm not one of those designers. I'm very much a build the first version,
test it,
put it somewhere. It's at sort of 80%, and I've got like a good design eye, so it's not. It won't look broken.
Yeah,
but it'll be a basic
enough to test.
Like there'll be a little bit of brand work. There'll be like the colours will all be sort of matching, but it's not going to blow anyone's hair back.
Yeah.
And that then is the point at which I'll be like, I don't want to spend more time on this until I know that there's point spending time in it.
Good.
That's just I think the process that increasingly people are going to be moving towards. I hope
it should be, especially embracing that entrepreneurial thinking. The line "better now, better later" comes to mind.
Love it.
Honestly, Jonny, there are 50,000 more where they came from.
Oh yeah.
When you've lived in startup land for a decade and a half,
everything's a hashtag.
Everything's got a saying.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's kind of move over to the next chapter. Early Deliveroo employee.
Yeah.
How exciting. So what was the year? What was your role? Paint the scene, and especially take us to the small office was it Soho with Will?
Yeah.
Take us there.
Yeah, sure. So I had been the first employee at a small startup bank in 2012. I think I joined.
Okay.
Um,
Would we have heard of it? What was the
yeah,
bank?
it's called OSPA,
Oh,
a
okay.
bank for kids.
Oh,
it was like
cute.
a precursor to the Monzos, and in fact, a lot of OSPA alumni ended up at the other fintechs. But it was great fun. I mean, I joined literally the founder, so that had been 3.5 years of my life, and I'd interviewed this guy, and he was great, a designer, and we made him an offer, and he said no. I was gutted, and I was like, well, where's he going? He said, I'm going to this place, Deliveroo. Hadn't heard of it.
Yeah.
Went on the website, and it was like non-responsive, and there was grass along the bottom of the website. It was, I mean, and I'm sure Will and others would admit now, wasn't well designed. So I was like, why is this designer going to this? It looks really crummy, frankly. And we're this cool. We just got millions from Index, and we're like the cool fintech on the block at the time. And he went over there, and then a year later, I had decided. I think I'd sort of started to realise that OSPA wasn't going to win the market, and I wanted a change. And I started looking around, and at that point, Deliveroo had, in 1 year, gone from under 10 employees when he joined to, I don't know, 100 odd, something like that.
Wow.
And so he interviewed me, and I said yes.
That's so funny. Yeah. How did that feel with the tables being turned?
It was great. I mean, I knew I wanted to work with him anyway.
Yeah.
So, and actually, in the year between, we'd gone for coffees.
That's so nice.
How do you build a design team, and how do you, just like general startup designy stuff.
Yeah, cool.
So we'd stayed in touch a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So it was a no-brainer, really. But I interviewed in an office in NoHo, Goode Street, was it? I can't remember, where they hadn't moved in yet. So I got interviewed in an empty office. And Simon, my boss, said, we're going to move in soon. And then this is a big enough office. Our current office is too small, so this will be our office. And 3 months later, after I'd worked out my notice period, I moved in, and they were too big for the office that they had not moved into 3 months earlier.
Jesus.
So I was roughly employee number 150.
Wow. So
fairly early, definitely in the first sort of flush. The culture in that place was... testament to that culture is that a lot of the people that I worked with then, we still talk daily.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we're in alumni Slack channels and things like that. So it was like really powerful, built really through food, I think.
Yeah.
Lunches coming in every day. We were the biggest dog fooders of our own product. Will is an American, it's kind of a slightly broy culture. So there was like food eating contests, and people would be playing music from their speakers while other people were trying to eat as many hand rolls as possible. And so it was like, it was a specific culture. And I think every early stage startup to be successful needs an opinionated culture. As soon as you start trying to cater to everyone, then it's important, but you do start to lose a little bit of that focus. So,
yeah.
And it's okay for different companies to have different cultures. This one was quite a, which was great. And, lots of memories in the pub, and everyone used to go to the local pub and then lose their laptops every week. And then they had to say, you can't take your laptop to the pub because there were so many laptops lost. Yeah. I don't want to sound like one of those founders that loves in office and blah, blah, blah. But there was something about being in a room, working on a problem that was very far away from being solved, everything on fire, numbers through the roof. We would go down every Sunday. If it rained on a Sunday, we were knackered because our infrastructure wasn't anywhere near able to cope with the order numbers.
Oh.
So we just grew so fast.
Wow. It took me a sec to connect the dots on the raining. I was like, new office
so
or whatever.
If it's raining on a Sunday, everyone stays in and orders.
Do you know there's a correlation between the temperature and Heinz soup sales?
Right.
So for every drop of degree centigrade, the
More
Heinz soup sells by
up.
whatever percentage.
Yeah, doesn't
So
surprise me.
same here with Deliveroo and the rain.
Yeah.
So it would just go through the roof every time.
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
A rainy day. It makes sense.
Yeah,
right?
like a lot of companies at that time, we were trying to work out personalization and recommendations, and how can we know what people ultimately want by showing them something on the feed. So I was looking after all of the mobile apps at the time, design of them, and working out, what do you show someone? And I think there was a bit of research. I have vague memories of this. It was 2016 or something when
Literally
we were
10
doing
years
this
ago.
work. But we would watch people browse all of these interesting and unusual restaurants and then order Nando's, like every single time.
So classic. I love. It's like the person I want to be versus the person I
this
am.
obscure sushi restaurant that, looks really interesting. And,
I'm getting a lemon and
then
herb wrap.
I just can't. And it was decision paralysis, it was the classic.
That's interesting.
If you give me 5 things versus 25 things,
Yeah.
I will more likely order 5 from the 5.
Interesting.
So-
Were there any other more sort of psychological insights that you learned from that experience at Deliveroo?
Oh yeah, I mean there's
So
tons
many.
of stuff. A lot, because I worked on the consumer products, and so it's effectively a funnel. Like you're working people from opening the app to
ordering.
Yeah. A lot of that was like small changes making big impacts. When you're dealing with 100,000 orders a night or a week or whatever it was, you get data back fairly quickly about even a small change. One of the most interesting projects I worked on was on the other side of ordering. Once I've ordered, immediately I'm nervous. I'm like, come on, I'm hangry. Basically, I'm waiting for my phone to tell me when my order's coming.
Where is it?
And
is
nowadays, you see this in all the apps. They all have the trackers, and you know where your driver is all the time. None of that existed anywhere. No one had that. So we started to build all of that technology in, and interesting stuff like the first version of the tracker, you could see a map the moment you ordered. But then people get really annoyed because they'd be like, my driver's not moving for ages and ages. Of course not. They're still cooking the food. But they'd be like going on the complaints line and being like, it's going to be late, even though it wasn't even late at that point.
Yeah.
So we ended up hiding the map until the point. And it sounds obvious now, but at the time, you're rolling this stuff out and sort of feeling your way through it.
This is so interesting. It's so interesting to like be that close and seeing how a user's actually interacting. And again, before all these other like little nudges and little psychological little user interface features existed. Funny you mention about the map and the tracking, because I was exactly just about to ask you, true or false? Because this is like rumor around Startup Land that's just come back into my mind talking to you now. Is it true that Deliveroo did the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes, or the Mechanical Turk is the other term for it, where somewhere your order's being prepared, your order's in the kitchen, it's on the way. Was there somebody manually behind the scenes doing that?
I don't think so.
That was a rumour that circled around.
I think maybe Domino's did that.
Oh.
Domino's had the first ever tracker. They had that face, and I think they still have a face.
Uh-huh.
I think that was because I remember looking at that when we were talking about ours. It wasn't a map or anything. It was just, it had the 4 stages. And you could sort of, the face would light up or whatever.
Yeah. So interesting.
And I suspect there was a certain amount of Mechanical Turk in that.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a rumour that circled around. And interestingly, what I learned from Rory Sutherland on the psychology, the user psychology on that tracking, is the same with Uber, which is I actually don't mind so much if it's an extra few minutes or whatever. I just need to know. It's just the certainty. Completely. So it's that same sort of frustration that you talk with the map and like nothing's
and
happening.
Even like
what's
use of
going
colour,
on?
like what colour you make things, as people have very different reactions to that.
Yeah.
We built a whole load of stuff. This is before AI and any of that. Effectively like menus in the app where you could drill down into exactly what was wrong with your food after it arrived, too cold, missing item, etc., etc. And that was a way for people to automatically solve their problem rather than get on a call or get on a live chat. So great user experience.
Yeah.
But it also allowed us to model what complaints were and who were serial complainers. So we could say, if you've had 10 orders and you've not complained about anything, we probably will just give you some money if you complain because you're probably telling the truth.
Yeah.
If you start doing it more often,
right.
We'll change how we react to that.
Yeah, makes sense.
And being much more data driven there.
Wow,
So all of that kind of stuff, it all happens.
interesting.
You think, and I find myself thinking this, it's just an app. Why are there 150 designers working on it? With all of these things, and it's so complex behind
It's the tip of
scenes.
the iceberg. Moving things along, our next chapter following Deliveroo was you launching your own business, Progression. So tell us what Progression was, and crucially, why did you want to go and set up your own thing?
Yeah. So I had been talking to a couple of friends who I'd worked at Osper with actually while I was at Deliveroo, and we had this little Slack channel back when Slack was fairly early. and you got unlimited message history on the free tier. So we just had this like Slack channel where we were like, wouldn't it be cool if? Wouldn't it be cool if? And we were sort of edging towards starting something together. So in 2018, we all quit. My friend Sile, who had been at Uber, and my friend Shariar, who'd been at Palantir, and me. And we came together and we were like, right, we have a plan, we have an idea. Within a couple of weeks, we'd invalidated that idea. So we were like, okay, well, next idea.
What was this first idea?
It was actually income smoothing for gig workers. So I don't know if you
like
remember, but at that time, that was when the gig economy stuff was really all over the papers.
Yeah. It makes sense with your role at Deliveroo, being close to it. Yeah.
Exactly. So we went off to do that and sort of couldn't, that first idea wasn't a goer, but we kept moving and we went through probably 5 or 6 different ideas where we spent a month. We built something basic. We went and did some validation with potential customers. And we got to a point, I think it was probably 4 or 5 months in, where another idea, we'd been like, some of us had been hot, some of us had been cold. And I was like, I think I am possibly the problem here, basically. Like they were quite often more aligned than I was. So I was like, I think even if we find an idea that we all agree on initially, I might not be helpful to them, and I might not enjoy myself loads. So I decided to bail. And the day that I decided to bail was the day they started the next iteration of a company that is now called MetaView. Very, very big hiring company. They run basically AI interview transcriptions, and you do interview intelligence and learn about how this is for hiring. So I'm watching them do amazing things. But at the time, that then left me with like a blank sheet of paper. And I was like, I could say that was interesting and go and get a job. I could even probably go back to Deliveroo if I wanted to. But that felt not like the right move. So went on holiday and floated around in a swimming pool in Italy for a week. And the day I came back, I built a 1-page website in a day, progression.fyi. And it was like a thing in the back of my head. I'd found annoying at Deliveroo. We'd built this career ladder in Excel and it had taken ages, tons of people involved. Goodness knows how much person time, hours, cost we'd incurred, like expensive people in a room talking about one sentence for an hour.
Right.
All for it to fall a bit flat on its face. And this was the goal of this document, was to help people understand how to grow in their design career and then ultimately in their whole career. And it sort of hadn't quite worked. I was like, I bet other people do this as well. So this website was basically a list of the public ones, see what happens. I was doing it alongside a couple of other things I was also playing around with. Yeah. But it popped, as they say. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I suppose I'll do this then. And it was just pulling a thread for the next year.
How are you defining it popping? What happened?
I posted it on LinkedIn and a few other places, and it sort of did the rounds. I don't know, Hacker News and various other websites. I'm not good at like promoting. I don't have a strategy for any of this stuff. Like I'm just like, once I put it on LinkedIn and Twitter, I'm out of ideas basically at that point. So if something does well, then that's like a little bit of a signal to me. It still is. So I was like, okay, well, I'll carry on doing this without a plan, no co-founder, no money, just like, I'll just do some consulting while I work out what this is.
And can I just ask, sorry, at this point, you mentioned no money. I was going to ask this before anyway. When you previously left your job, was it just savings that you guys all had together just to kind of have
I'd
that
given
runway?
Up 2 years of Deliveroo stock 2 years before they IPO'd.
So let's not dwell too much on that one.
I don't, to be honest. Like
Good.
I don't. I'm very much a no regrets person.
Love it. Okay, fantastic.
But yeah, like I have a history of questionable financial decisions. I would say.
You're an entrepreneur, of course. It's like
you got to just follow my heart to the end. But yeah, anyway, so this turned into like, keep pulling the thread. I built this like weird, bad product that I sold to Monzo and a couple of other people as like a one-off sale. Just basically people who believed in me and were like, you can do this. I'll buy this from you, I think. And sort of validated it basically. And by the end of 2018, I was like, I need to build a proper app. I know what this needs to be. It needs to be SaaS with recurring revenue. I don't know how to do that. So I went to find a co-founder and found Neil on a forum. And by April 2019, we had built a first version. We had our first paying customer. And we bootstrapped for the next year until, in the throes of COVID, decided to go and raise money. So we then raised money 2020 and 2021 and built a team and sort of went from there.
Wow, incredible. My goodness. So there's a few things that stood out to me a lot about that story. One was actually going through the validation process. That's why I reacted live in the moment, because like the amount of founders who are just, again, fall into that common trap that I mentioned right at the top of this interview, which was like, I've got this great idea, I've got this vision, I'm going to launch it out there, and again, build it and they will come. But actually putting it to the test.
Yeah.
And I feel like you sort of blew past getting the validation for progression. I mean, one thing is putting together an MVP, but what were some of the other signals? So you said, okay, you got picked up by some PR, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Your first paying clients as well is phenomenal. Is there anything else you can break down on the validation?
It was just manual. I worked my network. I'd been running a design team in London, so I'd done some conference talks, and I had like a bit of a network to sort of show first versions to. Very much like, I'm not trying to sell this to you, please tell me if I'm wasting my time, basically.
Yeah.
Trusted people. So there was a bit of that. There was a bit of like trying different things I could sell. So actually workshops and like very much not products, where I could just get in a room with a bunch of designers at the time and be like, here's career paths. What do you think about them? Like, let's talk more.
Yeah.
Building credibility myself, but also trying to understand the edges of this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you think about the very specific thing you've built as the thing to validate, then I think that's going to be hard. But if you have a thesis about the world, and you're loosely held about what you've built or what you even want to build, and you just think, I think that this problem exists. Let's find out if the problem exists, first of all. Do I believe in 2 years' time this problem will be solved by someone? What evidence do I have that that might be true? Like, people are already paying for things, or there's some pull from someone in the market. Like, I can point at someone who is paying money to solve this somehow. If you start there, rather than start from, I built a thing, then it's at very least it's a healthier way to go about it, and you won't just completely burn out after. You won't just throw away the whole thing, baby with the bathwater, if that first month doesn't go well.
Yeah.
The other big mistake I see people making is quitting their jobs and like cutting off. They're like, I'm going all in. Month one is I'm going all in, and then by month 6, sort of things have got quiet, and then they get another job, and it's sort of, you have to think of it as a long game. You can go and raise money, but you shouldn't assume you can. And once again, fundraising is lumpy today, for sure. Like, if you tell the right story, you'll raise too much money, and if you tell the wrong story, you won't raise any. So I'm a little bit out of the fundraising cycle at the moment, but definitely talking to other people, I get the sense. So assuming it's going to take you a while, work out sustainability. How can you work 2 days a week, which at least pays the rent, so that you don't have that fear all the time, that like palpitation in your heart, thinking, I'm making a fool of myself here, and I'm just going to have to go crawling back to my job, and then I hope no one will have noticed, and that will come a certain amount. But I think being able to just go, I love this problem. I think I'm going to spend a lot of time with this problem over the next year. And if it turns into something that credibly I could build and excites me and I can get other people excited about, then great. And sort of leaving it there, I think, is a healthier way to go.
Such wise words, Jonny. I love that. Pearls of wisdom. That was gold dust. Absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on with all that. I couldn't agree anymore. You mentioned fundraising. What can you share on your fundraising journey with progression? Obviously, bearing in mind, like, a big caveat to this is like time and place. So this was a different time, especially the fact that you were building this B2B SaaS company, which was like the magic words that like all the investors were like jacking off to in like 2020, 21, right? It was just like, B2B SaaS, give it to me. The same way we're now living in AI, right? So we can draw some parallels, but what struck you the most about the fundraising journey?
Oh boy.
What was like easier, harder?
I think you start from a point of view of like, I want to raise money. I don't know anyone. At least I did. I mean, probably if you've come from a background in venture or you've done one before, which I would have a black book. But at the time I was like, I know maybe one person that has done this. And actually that one person's enough. So if you have one person that has cut a few angel checks or knows someone in VC and you're just honest about what you're thinking about and you don't say I'm fundraising, you say, I want to understand how this works. I think that surprised me how generous so many people are with their time. And I met some fantastic investors really early. And I was so lucky. I should call out someone, Sarah Drinkwater, who now runs a fund, Common Magic. She's a solo GP. Female solo GP is extremely rare. She's an incredible person. But she was so supportive from the very start.
Wow.
She'd just like get on a call with me and
Nice.
I'd be like, I don't even know if I want to fundraise. Just terrible stuff that you shouldn't say that kind of stuff to an investor. But I'd say it anyway. And she'd be like, okay, well, I've committed to investing in you. So I'll just pretend I didn't hear that. But yeah, I mean, there is a story you have to tell, but there's a chicken and egg. You have to learn what story you need to tell by talking to people and them being kind enough and you being open enough to hear when they're saying, I'm not going to invest. Here's why. And you really internalize that. Don't ignore it. Some people will give bad answers like it's too early or like vague, mysterious things. Cheering you from the sidelines is the big trope. Like they'll say, we really believe in you, but it's not quite right for us right now. We'll cheer you from the sidelines. Fuck off. Is what they're saying, basically. But the ones that give you feedback, and I had a few investors that said no. First round capital, I remember, this was actually our second fundraise. A guy called Todd, who actually runs an excellent podcast. But he was such a thoughtful no. And I really tried to like listen to everything he said and make changes to the story. And then those no's start to, the first time it actually took us 3 months to fundraise.
Wow.
And the first month was like an absolute howler. I mean, I was like pitching to raise 150k at one point. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, literally. And it was only through the kindness of strangers where I turned what I was doing into something that looked credible and looked like something they should even listen to.
Amazing.
And ended up with an amazing lead, a guy called Pietro from Connect, who is like this effervescent Italian, just like so full of energy, loves B2B SaaS. Oh my God, this guy loves B2B SaaS so much. So just energy match completely.
Amazing.
But yeah, I think you can listen to the podcast and you can read the books. You just have to start showing people what you've got.
Yeah. And that classic line of, if you want advice, ask for money. If you want money, ask for advice, right? That's exactly it is. It's true. I
completely believe that.
Totally true. So one last question on the fundraise before we get to a bit of a turbulent exit here is, I mentioned earlier about sort of like the state of the world and how much sort of time and place sort of feeds into it. Headwinds and tailwinds. How much, now with hindsight, obviously it's still difficult to say, but with hindsight, how much of kind of the market headwinds do you think had to do with the success of Progression?
Yeah. Well, we were born in the ZERP era, which is the zero interest rate. Don't know what the P stands for, I can't remember. But basically that time when it was, low interest.
Yeah.
Every tech company was doubling headcount year on year.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just like jobs for everyone,
I remember,
This was the time when all of these big US tech companies completely overhired and now you're seeing them
the other direction.
Yeah, exactly. But that was great for us. We sold by the seat. We were effectively an HR product. Every time someone joined a team, we get an extra seat.
Quids in.
And there was a lot of money for employee perks, basically. Your employees sticking around was the biggest piece of value you had as a company. So from 2019 to about late 2022, that was true. Then Russia invades Ukraine. All of the stuff starts happening in the world that effectively makes tech less investable. So interest rates go up. So therefore, all of those people that could have put money into tech could now actually put money into like 4%, get 4% on cash, or do less risky things for their money. So less money going into tech. These companies start shrinking. All of this starts happening at the same time as 2 or 3 big, much bigger HR tech companies than us started building progression-like features into their apps. So it was a kind of pincer move where the HR team that previously would have bought us is being told you can only buy one tool. So you need to pick the one basically with the most features. And all of these companies started building all of the features of each other to start looking more like a platform, and we were in the middle. So what I spotted this, well, Neil and I spotted this, and I think there's a certain amount that we couldn't do anything about it. If you look at what we pitched in 2019 and you were to try and pitch it now, I'm not sure you would raise money for it, because I think it was a good idea then, genuinely, and I'm not sure it's a good idea now, the way that we were building it. But I think there were things that we could have done. And when I think of my leadership journey and like all of the lessons that I've learned, and I've had now a year, nearly 18 months to reflect on that time, being decisive. If I see something and I believe it to be true, it doesn't matter if I'm going to have a difficult conversation with an investor, or I'm going to have to let some customers down, or I'm going to have to tell the team that we're doing something different.
It's got to be done.
I am actually the person that knows.
Yeah.
I'm the person that thinks about this in my sleep as well as in the daytime.
Yeah.
I'm the person that's told this story the most. I'm the person that's met the most customers. I'm reading all the tech news more than anyone in my team. So really, I should be doing this. I suppose it's just a very big trust your gut.
Yeah, having more conviction, right?
Yeah, and I think, when I think about how lossy the world is because people, when they know something to be true, don't want to act on it. Yeah. It's extraordinary how much is lost in years of people's lives where they're in the wrong job and they don't want to be there, but they're worried about something, or they don't want to tell someone a bit of news and they sit with it for months or years.
Just carry it. Yeah, I'm totally with you.
And that person, meanwhile, is causing chaos or unhappy themselves. Yeah. Just there were moments, there were a few moments like that. Yeah. That I hope, if nothing else, if I build a team again, that I will be able to practice a bit less ruinous empathy. Yeah. But all of that is to say, I think when we saw in late 2022 what was happening, we could have made a more decisive move at that point. And actually what we did was we waited another year. And at that point, we still had lots of money. Actually, and when we sold, we were profitable. And, there was a healthy company and a going concern, but it wasn't venture scale. And as soon as we realised that our story was no longer a venture scale story, once you've taken VC money, then that is really what you should be aiming to do. So we could have... I don't know what the pivot would have looked like necessarily, but we could have done something more dramatic earlier. And instead, I think I was a little bit indecisive. Yeah. What that resulted in was we kept going until, when would it have been? Very end of 2023, first month of 2024. Neil and I sat down and we were like, what should we do? And it was probably a year too late that we were having that conversation, but we were like, what should we do? And we sort of made a decision. We'd been exploring a pivot. We were like, it's kind of interesting, but it's hard to go from a company with some decent revenue and a whole team built around it and all of this work to say, we're just going to lose all that and just work on this tiny little thing that we don't even know if it even exists yet. And we had to tell the board about that, and that was a whole thing. So we were like, you need 150% energy to activate something like that. Do we have that energy? Yeah. And the honest answer was no, basically. Yeah. And we talked to our investors, who were great throughout, and we said, right, well, we'll position the business for an exit. We'll run it. We'll position it for an exit. And that was January.
And can I just fact check here, sorry, because this is like, you mentioned venture scale before. So are these investors, did you manage their expectations that like they're not going to get like 10 times ROI?
A VC makes 10 bets and one needs to go to the moon. And then 3 need to pay the money back. And then the rest can die and they won't get their money back. So that is the maths they're already doing.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're so deeply emotionally involved in this thing that you're like, oh my God, I think they might cry.
Yeah.
Like in the nicest possible
game.
way, they've seen it before.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they're probably talking to 5 other companies that they're on the board of, having similar conversations at the same time. So, you know, they care, of course, and they want what's right for you and what's right for the business. But you shouldn't worry too much about them. Yeah,
exactly. And so you fall into that middle bucket of like, we're going to position for an exit, we're going to get a return, but it's just not, we're not that 1%.
We're not, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Can I just also, sorry, before we move on, I just want to cut you a bit of slack on, because I did want to talk about the leadership journey. You're saying about how big the team had grown, but there's so many other topics we need to get into. So we will move past that quickly. But on acting on the decisions that you need to be making, it does link back to what you said earlier about, for all the podcasts you listen to and videos and chats and everything else, until you're out there yourself, a player on the field, putting in the reps, doing it for real. This for you was your first time in this position. This was the first ever time, and not an excuse, but also cutting you a bit of slack here, because you've never been in charge of a team of this size. You've never had your own investors. This is uncharted territory. And the fact of the matter is, the market just doesn't give a crap, right? Yep. And so I think it's only a mistake when you don't learn, right? Like, you do it once, you learn from it, you move on. But if you keep making that same mistake, then, you know, it is a failure. So you've learned from it, move on, but like,
completely,
you're fine.
I think it's a balance. You know, I don't lose sleep because of decisions that I made at Progression, and we treated our employees well. Like, you know, I like to think that it was a good chapter in everyone's lives. Yeah, made new friends. Yeah, I learned a ton, and yes, the market doesn't care. Absolutely, you're right. It cared for a while, and then it suddenly didn't care for us. So that was a really interesting journey. Yeah. You'd be remiss to not try and take learnings as well. Exactly. Like, there's things that I did that I overemphasized that I would not this time. Yeah. So yes, I agree with you. But also, you know, if there are learnings to be had, I'm going to
yeah, absolutely. And a common theme, like, throughout this podcast and all these entrepreneurs that I've had the pleasure of interviewing as well, is like, that has been a very clear commonality of just like not acting fast enough, whether it has been laying someone off, which I think you've been in that situation as well, pivoting sooner, going out there to sell your business sooner, just moving quicker. It's just, and I think and then when I've also sat down with like serial entrepreneurs that have now got a few of those under their belt now, that again, where it's simultaneously been the most common thread throughout all these interviews I've done, it's also been mirrored on the people who have got the reps under their belt to now just move quicker and quicker.
I think so. I think...
but you need to go through it. I feel like you need to go through, because, sorry, just to it is so uncomfortable. Yeah. And it's like, it's so uncomfortable that we'd rather sit with that than confront the decisions that we need to make. And so it's like, you know, you can tell a child, don't put your finger in the flame, it's going to burn. But until they do it, I agree. There are just some things where you're like, can you shortcut it?
It needs to be burnt into your memory. There needs to be the scar tissue, the personal scar tissue.
Right. Okay, so moving on to the exit chapter then. So you had the awkward conversation with the investors, more awkward for you than it was for them. They're like, it's fine. Yeah. So what happened? What's your drama with the acquisition?
Yeah, so our goal was to get the company to the point where it was potentially attractive to a strategic investor. So that would be one of the big HR platforms where there was strategic value in slotting a tool like ours into their existing suite. So, you know, think your HiBobs or your Personios, all of that kind of crowd. But we also wanted to explore the idea of selling to another founding team that didn't want to start from scratch. So we sort of had to like balance this what the company looks like across both, like healthy enough and great tech and team comes with and all of that kind of stuff for one group of people, while also here's what it could look like run in a sort of skeleton way or sort of rebuilt. We learned a lot about that, and ultimately we found one buyer in, I think, about March, April. We went through 2 or 3 months of due diligence with them. They then turned around, I think, the day before we were meant to sign the terms, and decided to half the price. So I think we said something like, no, but let's stay in touch. Because, when you don't have anything else on the table at the time, you're like, oh my God, maybe that was our last one. Maybe that's what we should actually be, expecting.
Yeah.
And then a second one came along, a European roll-up, really nice company, gotten really well with them. It was a healthier offer than even the first one had been before they halved it. So we were like, great, back into due diligence with them.
It's validating.
And we got to the point where we're about to sign. And then a guy calls me on the phone on Friday night. I remember it vividly. I was in my garden with my, at the time, 2-year-old, I think. And I chat to this American guy who's... I get an email to our info@progression.co. It's something like, are you open to the idea of partnering, from tech CEO? And I was like, yes, my number is this. Feel free to give me a call. And while I was in the garden, I was like, this is going to be bullshit, basically. Calls me up. And he was like, yeah, so tell me what's going on. And I said, tomorrow, or Monday, we're going to sign the final papers to sell the business. Here's the number that you would need to say in order for us to tear that up and go with you. And he said, okay, I'm going to think about it. And then he called me back later that night and he said, we'll have an LOI to you tomorrow morning. I said, it's got to be tomorrow, and we've got to have some validation that this is real, because I'm going to burn that bridge. That's the bird in the hand. And he said, I understand. And I said, I think, and I even renegotiated 10% more or something like that. I tweaked the package that Neil and I would get after the sale to sort of sweeten that a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that was a mad 10 minutes. And then he came through next day, and we had an LOI, sent it to our lawyers, and they said, yeah, this looks legit. So we signed it, and it was still scary because you go from, full legals done, quite costly, through to back to square one. And he said, we'll get it done in a month. And, Americans think get everything done in a month. It took us 3 months to then go through legal process again. Ended up being 100 grand in legals for the whole thing. But we signed. And so, I didn't have many true CEO moments, I think, in my journey. A lot of being a founder is boring and not glamorous, and you don't feel like the big man necessarily. But in that moment, I was like, yeah. I felt like sort of Mad Men, or I don't know, just like
CEO,
I'd
bitch.
sort of, yeah, exactly. I feel like I'd earned my title for just a few minutes there. So
Jonny, that is so crazy.
Yeah.
That is so crazy. So this American
just
randomly,
through our support line.
How did he come across you?
I actually never. I don't remember if I asked, but I can't remember.
This is this is like every time my partner comes home after hanging with these, and I'm like, ask the first most basic questions, like, oh no, I don't know, I didn't even know. I'm like, Jonny, that's like the first question I want to know. It's because it's a marketer in me. I'm like, attribution.
Yeah.
Where did they come? So funny.
Yeah, it's like my wife. I'll go to the pub with my mates, and my wife will be like, "How are they?"
Exactly. It's like, didn't you guys talk? It's such a classic trope. So, but those are just so crazy with the timings here. The timings of it. So were the other guys pissed?
They were incredibly gracious.
Wow.
Again, I think you go back to like
Yeah.
professional investors.
Yeah.
They want to do the deal and
Yeah.
they put time into it, and they really did put time into it. But they also understand how this works.
Yeah.
And we had up until that point a lot of tire kickers. So we'd acted in good faith throughout. And I did say to them, it was like double what they'd offered. So I was like, you have to understand that we have to take this. And he understood.
Did you give them an opportunity to counter offer?
Yeah, of course.
And they didn't?
Yeah, they couldn't match it.
Wow.
Yeah.
God, that's so crazy. I co-bought my last property in the same way. I saw it on the Friday, went to see it, got my partner in on the Saturday. The offer was put in on the Sunday, and we were like, contract on the Monday.
Yeah.
It goes to show also, going slightly off track, and I know we need to keep things moving, but when people, this is another like big, not just like in business, but like life lesson. I think like with anyone, with anything, when people want to, like they'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you want to sell your company, you'll take that call on a Friday night. If they want to buy your company,
rules, really.
do you know? But like, if people want to,
yeah.
And I don't know whether this is just more personal to me. If anyone else relates, please leave a comment. But I find myself subconsciously and way too frequently making excuses for other people. And I thought I'd learned that lesson, but and I'm like, if someone wants it, like we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just like things, they don't have to be so difficult or take so long, or this narrative that I feel like we get fed sometimes.
I think it's actually key, especially at the moment, but I think it's key, a key skill to have as a founder or a leader, to constantly be asking that question.
Yeah.
There's this, I think it's almost cliche, but if someone says this will take a week, ask them genuinely, how do we do this in a day? Yeah. And it may not be possible in a day, but what you're really asking is, do all of the things that you have assumed need to be true or need to exist?
Yeah, exactly.
Do all of them need to exist?
Yeah.
Let's go back to first principles.
Right.
And really just like work out how this can be done.
Yeah. Are these just like artificial blockers slowing us down?
Right.
Do you actually want this? Is this, are you actually committed?
Yeah. And what's actually important about it versus what's just what we always did in the past. And you'd be amazed how often people just build all of these towers for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Where they have to do it.
Yeah. And you're like, why?
And it's like an extraordinary waste of time.
This is where like some people don't want the entrepreneurs anywhere near. Like, don't ask why, don't ask questions.
And it's also why I think being a founder sometimes is
annoying.
Not entirely compatible with being a friend to someone.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think one of the things I struggled with a little bit of progression was I sort of was classic first time leader. I was like, I want to be able to go to the pub with everyone and we're all a team together. And emphasizing that too much meant it was too hard for me to then make decisions that weren't in their interest.
Yeah, you're their boss. Moving things along, crazy story. I don't think I've had my fair share of like exit stories, and one of my very, very, very first early interviews was like the craziest exit story, which was, I don't know if you know Nick Telson-Sillett of Design My Night.
Yeah.
And any stories I've heard, and same with Nick here as well, is it was the other way around. It was the deal almost falling through on the buyer side. Yeah. So it's incredibly rare, at least from my vantage point, it's incredibly rare that you had the power and that you had this incredible opportunity. And how I just can't get over, like, I'm definitely going to be processing this after we finish recording, because it's like the months and months. Yeah. And then suddenly, like, I know. The same weekend.
All of the things that had not gone our way
led you to that moment.
But I'm also not good at like game theory, and I'm not like or brinksmanship. If in that moment I didn't feel like it was a risk to say that. I was speaking quite honestly. I was thinking practically, to blow through a sure thing, what am I willing to risk? What does it need to be worth? And I just spoke plainly about that. Yeah. So, I think if it hadn't been true, if we hadn't had a deal, I wouldn't have been able to say we've got a
and that is such a lovely virtue that you've got. And something else that I've noticed with some really lovely, successful founders, like they have said that as well. It's just another observation where they're just honest, they're straight, and it can be very refreshing in this field. So moving along, we have to cover the post-exit founder existential crisis.
Mm.
So here you are,
Yeah.
you've been through trials and tribulations, you've learned so many lessons along the way, you've fundraised, you've led the business through a pandemic, you've hired this team, you've grown, you've taken it through this adventurous acquisition process. Obviously, you've got your transition and your earnout, but post that moment, how are you feeling? What's going through your mind?
Yeah. So I knew from other people telling me that after you've poured everything into something for a long period of time, there is a sense of loss after you no longer do it. And I didn't feel an enormous sense of loss about not working on progression anymore. I think it was the right time.
Mm-hmm.
But I did feel purposeless in in a way that garnered me, I think, very little empathy from my loved ones. I basically had made enough money to not have to work for a bit. I had all of these projects and hobbies and things that I was doing instead of working. I'd go to the pub with my friends and they'd be like, so what are you up to? And I'd be like, not much. And they'd be like, what? And I reckon, and there would have been times in the past where I'd have thought, oh, how blissful that would be.
Right.
And yet, I think loss of purpose is like a really insidious thing.
You feel rudderless.
Yeah, and I think also just not like you can really explain it to anyone or tell anyone about it in a way that it would make sense.
Yeah.
Because you can't even really explain it yourself.
Yeah.
Like on paper, it doesn't make sense. So I took up hobbies, like, built an enormous amount of stuff with AI, like just, any spare moment. Worked on the garden and did some DIY and all of the things that you do. And ultimately was constantly in my head throughout all of this, spinning my wheels on like, do I do it again? Do I do it again? If so, what? If so, what? Who with? All of this stuff. And the only reason I can say this, it's now been, it was September we sold. So let's call it 18 months since sold the business, and 14 months since I stopped working for the business. It was only a 4-month earnout, which is really short, actually. And a lot of entrepreneurs will be like, and then I worked there for 2 years. And by the time I was able to leave, I had my next idea anyway. So it's sort of a seamless transition.
Yeah.
And that purpose is to, like, you've got a sense of purpose because you're an employee for a little while. Anyway, so 14 months. I would say only since the beginning of this year have I started to be like, oh, hold on. I think I sort of have a sense of what's next.
Exciting.
So it's like a whole year of trying stuff, like in December, I launched a coffee brand.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And a lot of my family were like, what?
What's it called?
Buzzcut. It's it's half calf coffee.
Okay, cool.
So, buzzcutcoffee.com. If anyone wants to buy some.
Some half calf. Yeah. Nice, all right. You got a code for my listeners? Come on, if you're going to plug it.
I don't. I'll make one.
We'll put it in the show notes. Entrepreneurs need caffeinating as well.
But all of this was like me trying stuff. Like, what about this? What about this? What gives me energy? And just trying to be really honest with myself and let things go if they weren't working for me. Even if I'd launched them and told people about them, if they were no longer working for me, let them go again. AI is at the center of what I have been thinking about. I mean, Progression started using AI in GPT-3 before ChatGPT. We built AI features. So I've been using AI for a long time, and helping other people to work out how to use it. I became convinced that there's this gap between, a few months ago, this gap between what the capabilities are and what adoption looks like. And that gap is fear and distrust and to an extent an application layer. So like you need the UIs to be able to interact with the thing, but actually much more good old fashioned change management. And, in a team, what are we scared about? What tools do we actually need? What do we hold close to ourselves that we don't want to let go? And what are we willing to let go? These are complex conversations that involve people's emotions. And so anyway, that has formed the center of a lot of my work over the last few months. I'm working with a guy called Tom Harmon, also a designer. and we're running a sort of boutique AI consultancy called NearFuture.
Nice name.
It is a nice name.
Yeah, I love it.
It's actually not live yet, but hopefully by the time this goes
will
out, it will be.
Well, this is the deadline.
Yeah,
It's got to be ready by the time
Exactly.
this goes out. Could this be done in a day, Jonny?
It probably could, to be honest. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Ouch. Yeah, good callback. And then alongside that, I'm like just fascinated by the design process and how the tools of drawing rectangles on canvases, which I've had to do for my entire career, are crumbling. And now we can start to question how design works very practically inside an organization, which is both maybe a niche topic, but also will affect an enormous number of people, and how the tools we all use every day feel. So
yeah. It truly is disruptive. It truly is like having this transformative impact across disciplines, across sectors, across industries. So just like you were well positioned in B2B SaaS in 2019, here you are, 2026, AI.
I just ride the vibes, you know. That's all I do.
That is a legitimate entrepreneurial skill, though, don't you think? Of like, I think another one of these famous founders also said something along the lines of, you know, you had that great quote before about, you know, entrepreneurship being a puzzle, but there was another one which was like, you're on a beach if you've ever surfed, and you're just like there watching the waves and like waiting, what's the wave I'm going to catch? Because again, to my earlier question on how much the market you attribute to the success of progression, like you got to be, and that again is where that common trap of like, the market doesn't give a crap about your idea. It's right time, right place. So it makes sense for you.
The waves thing is a good analogy in the sense that the person that stands on the beach waiting for the right wave will never surf. And the person that is in there surfing every wave, that was being cringe about like buying JPEGs on the internet 3 years ago and is now into AI, you know, they're cringe. But probably they're in the arena and they'll find something. So there's a great quote which is, everything you want is the other side of cringe. And I think that is also true. You have to put yourself out there. You have to try stuff.
Definitely.
You have to be unafraid of what you're doing looking silly.
Yeah. And my regular listeners, I apologize because you're already sick of me saying this, but the spotlight effect is so real. It's a psychological phenomenon where ultimately no one gives a shit. No one cares. No one's paying as much attention to you as you are. You were all walking around with the spotlight effect. Everyone's just getting on with their lives.
Completely. If your LinkedIn post doesn't pop, no one noticed by definition, so it's fine.
Right. Literally, it's like bad news, no one saw it. Good news, no one saw it. You know? Yeah. Jonny, oh my goodness, thank you so much for coming on the show. I feel like this has just been like collapsing your wisdom and your entire career, including your entrepreneurial journey, into just an hour nutshell here on a podcast. I would love so badly to like go deeper on each of these subjects, but need to keep things moving along. Jonny, anything else you'd like to share before I come to my traditional closing question?
Oh no, I know what this closing question is going to be, and I feel like I don't have a good. I'm not sure I have a good answer to it. So you now made me nervous. And anything else I want to say? No, everyone should keep an open mind and avoid being too committed to any one opinion at any one time, especially at the moment.
That's deep. I'm going to leave that there.
On technology,
I'm not going to double click on that one. Okay, let's leave that there. Jonny, my show is called Strategy and Tragedy because often the best lessons come from the biggest mistakes, aka tragedies. What's one tragedy that's taught you an unforgettable lesson?
The first time I had to let someone go at Progression, I had been thinking about it for a month, 2 months, and I had been thinking, is it them? Is it me? Am I being really bad at managing them? We're not getting on very well, and the work isn't great, but I'm not sure what's going on. It might be me. And I talked to another founder who gave me a really good bit of advice, or he just laid something out which was obvious in hindsight, which is, it doesn't matter. Like, you can go to the ends of the earth thinking, is it you or is it them? Should you change? Should they change? Ultimately, you're lashed to the mast. You can't fire yourself from this company. So if it's not working, they have to go. And I'd had that conversation on like the Wednesday with this guy. So I was like, okay, that was useful. We're going to make the decision. So I'd line myself up to have a difficult conversation on the Friday. And then on Thursday, my wife went into labour.
Wow.
Plot twist. So I was gone. I mean, I was, doing more important things. I had to ask my co-founder to do the deed. And I felt so sad and ashamed that I had taken all this time and finally got to the point where I drummed up the courage, and then I didn't even do it. That sat with me. And I think it just goes back to being decisive. I mean, I couldn't have planned for the labour, obviously. I actually also signed a term sheet for our second funding round, holding my 9-hour-old son. That was a single piece of admin that I did really need to do.
Wow.
So I was on DocuSign in one hand, holding my son in the other.
Wow.
Didn't go down super well, but I was like, I'm sorry, I'm here, but I know I just need to do this one thing. So I didn't read the docs particularly closely, but it was fine in the end. Anyway, just being decisive and not letting things linger would have been better for everyone, especially me in that moment. But I mean, it sounds like you've had a lot of other stories about these kind of hard decisions that involve humans and not wanting to do anyone a disservice. It might have been our culture, it might have been some other reason. This is a good person. So, but getting all in, second guessing yourself all around in a circle, ultimately, if it's not working,
just not working.
The best thing to do for everyone is make a decision.
Yeah.
So, I suppose that is, it's not a tragedy, but it was an interesting moment for sure.
It's a little bit dramatic over here. No, that's a great lesson shared. Jonny, thank you so much for coming on, for sharing your stories of eating contests, of fundraising amidst a pandemic. So many other fantastic pearls of wisdom that you've shared. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
And thank you so much for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this and you haven't already, please hit that follow, subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up, share a comment, share this with a friend. And episodes are weekly. So hopefully see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.
So you always kind of... I'm going to start that again. It was like the least smooth transition. I think I was so put off by you being hi.
Mine was lame as well.
This is so funny.
Shall I start with a less weird greeting?
I just don't think any guest has responded to me like that before. Hi.
Hi there. Right. Hi, great to meet you. Okay. This is just corpsing now for an hour, good. Isn't it?
My cheeks. Okay.
We're good. Hi. I don't know what to say that's different.
I don't know how to started. All right, let me just start with the question. It's all good. Oh my God, my face. Okay, I need a second.
Okay, I'll just do it. Hold on, I'll go. Okay. Hi, great to be here. No, it's not going to work, is it?
So the classic is...
What do people say? How do humans talk?
I make sounds with my mouth.